Hello, everyone. This is episode 17, the last one of 2025. We're doing something special today. The title is From Insight to Impact. We really want to summarize the whole year for you, giving you all the insights to have a very, very successful 2026. So, welcome, Elise. So happy to have you on the verge of 2026.
Thank you, Francis. Great to be here and very excited to have this conversation. I like just reflecting back on the conversations we've had this year. I mean, it's just been such a great journey with you, and the conversations we've had have always energized me. And I feel like I'm always learning something from the conversation. I sometimes think that we almost learn more than others because in sharing things and in teaching, there's so much learning that we get from one another and I guess from ourselves as well. It's such great reminders. So today is great. It's a great wrap up of the conversations we've had. And it's like a summary of all the great lessons to, as you said, take us into a really powerful 2026.
Yeah, and it's been a real pleasure to do it with you too. I'm very blessed, so thank you so much. And
Thank you.
I think what we want to do today is giving information, but we don't want that information to just sit on the shelves of your mind. We want that to leverage really your results and that you can apply it. So, Thinking into Results, a program that we both share, has 12 lessons. So we're kind of not going to go through the 12, but definitely focus on what we think it matters the most. So starting with actually something that I talked to my clients this morning was basically the vision and making a decision about that. What's the vision? Sometimes it's if your employees, your team members are not so sure exactly where they're going in 2026, well, this is the time right now to formalize this, make it very crisp and clear, and really decide the direction you want to take for 2026. I'm curious about what
Yeah.
you think about that.
Uh, I was just thinking about a really interesting conversation I had yesterday. So I've got a client who I've been with for like 18 months now or so. And as you say, like the starting point is the vision, the starting point is the goal. Where are you going? And he has been fighting me on this since the word go. And he said to me, Lise, like, I don't do goals because I find them very restrictive. I'm more focused on like the direction in which I'm going, like growing my business, etc. And I remember, obviously having these conversations, and he's done amazing things. And at the end of the day, if you want to call it direction and not goal, like it's still something you're working towards. But I'd kind of like left it, and then yesterday we had a conversation, and he said to me, "Do you know what? I think it might be time for me to reconsider." So I said to him, "Okay," and like just listening how he's kind of thinking through this, and I have so much respect for him that he's willing to revisit his thinking, right? Because he used to feel so strongly about that. So it shows me that he's open minded. But so I said to him, I gave him an example because he used to run, and I said, "What if you say you wanted to start running again? How would you train?" So, if you don't decide exactly what the goal is, are you training for a 5K? Are you training for a marathon? Are you running this in 1 month? Are you running it in a year? Like how you train, what time you wake up, how frequently you get up, how far you run is going to change dependent on the decision you make and that goal that you set, right? And and as we were kind of talking through this and being a runner, he really resonated with that. He was like, "You're right." I couldn't believe it, and he was almost like, you could see him restricting when he said that, and I said, "Look, it's not about me being right, but it's so wonderful that you're like this is landing for you." And he said that he was going to take this kind of break over, the holidays and really think about where he wants to go. And he agreed that he's going to start writing things down and making it, as we always say, measurable. Give it a date. Decide, like I'm running a marathon in July 2026 or whatever it may be. You know exactly how long you have, how far you need to train, how frequently you need to train. And it was such a big win for me. But I thought the analogy really landed because I think most of us can relate to that. And a lot of people still kind of feel a little bit, like they have a bit of pushback when you tell them to put a goal, write it down, commit to it, give it a date. And that just shows you that you don't really know where you're going. You don't know what you're training for if you don't commit to something. So I love that you started with that decision and the vision. Where are you going? What does it mean to you? Why do you want it? And what is it specifically? Because also, if you don't know what it is, how do you know at the end of it whether you reached it? If you just say, I'm going to run, does that mean what I'm running once ever and then like tick, I'm running? Or like, what is it, right? So you can't even celebrate that you did it if you don't define it appropriately.
I love this analogy. Can I borrow it? Like, this is brilliant. This is so true
Yeah,
because,
I was like, yeah, if I can change his mind, maybe it'll help others.
you're a powerful leader. There's another story in you that I know that you were able to influence someone recently. And, when you said that, I'm thinking about my own client that ran an Ironman. So you can imagine that's not the same type of training you're doing for Ironman. There's three things that are involved, and you're going to be very, very good at it. And the pain management, just even in terms of eating, like there's so many things that, like you said, waking up at a different time, maybe the location where you're training, so many, So that's such a good analogy. And when I thought of vision, I'm also thinking of one of my clients has been very successful in the dentistry, and he has borrowed the vivid vision concept, which it seems, oh yeah, vivid and descriptions, but it's really asking yourself also, what's my definite purpose into this? Why am I doing this? So when you're doing a vivid vision, and by the way, it started, there's an owner of the 1-800-JUNK. I think the president or the CEO was from Vancouver, and he said that this is one of the reasons why his business that was just plateauing for years, as soon as he did his vivid vision, it started to go exponential. Because it was so clear for everyone else. Like if your employee or anyone in the team, they're not so sure where they're going. It's the same old, same old. Well, same old doesn't go very far. And then in that, we already talked about it prior to this call. Like sometimes we might optimize the wrong things, depending on how we're setting the goal. And we will talk about the goals. So the vision is very important. And even today, I heard from this guy in Australia that, we'll talk a little bit more also on that story, but the point is that they revisited their vision. And by doing that, it's also attracting different type of people. And they were talking about, A players, B players. I think the A players, they really want to go into something that's meaningful. There's a purpose. Why am I doing this? I'm using my skills and my talent. I don't want to do it for something that's boring. Give me something meaningful. Give me something that's big. That's why the vivid vision is important, like having this story, and we all learn by stories, and this is where we're going to go, having so many details. They can see themselves in the story, and they're like, yeah, I'm in. Like, I want to work for someone like that.
Absolutely, and they resonate with it. I think it's great, and that buy-in is what you want from people. You want people to actually care about what you do. Okay, so this slide was actually just a really important reminder for me. So if you think about it, and we all learned this at school, but we so easily forget that the human eye can only see less than 1% of all the electromagnetic waves. So we all know X-rays. I mean, I'm sure you know someone who's had an X-ray taken. You can't see that, but yet we make medical decisions based on X-rays. If you think about your radio, you can't see that. You can't see, like when you're phoning someone, we all phone people every single day, even like Wi-Fi signal. We don't see these things. And I think often and in our conversations, Francis, we often talk about, resonating with someone or your frequency or your vibration. And, if you asked me a couple of years ago whether I, kind of really understood that, I probably would have said no. And for me, it was just such a powerful reminder to say, we so easily live by our senses. We trust only things we see or we can hear and feel. And there is so much, 99.9% of everything that's going on in this world, we can't see or we can't experience with our senses. And that's a staggering statistic, right? And it's such an important reminder that there is so much going on around us. Everything is energy. If you think about like the smallest atom that absolutely everything is made up of, that is mostly energy. So, when we're talking about energy, this is real stuff. This is not just kind of like out there woo woo. This is like real stuff that we actually all experience every day. When you hear the radio, when you heat something in the microwave, remind yourself these are things we cannot see, yet we trust it. We know that it'll work. And that's why, when we talk about raising our energy and being kind of on the vibrational match of our goals, it's so important. I even think about, if you're standing and someone comes into the kitchen or walks into a room, you can sense their energy. They don't have to say a word. You know whether they're in a good vibration or in a kind of high energy, having a good day, great. We all know that moment when someone walks in and the entire room's energy drops, right? You're kind of going, I don't think I want to go close to them, having a bad day. And everyone's energy drops, right? I mean, we've all experienced that. And it's just such a great reminder that like energy is real, right? When you look at this picture on the slide, I guess back in the day we used to tune radios like that, maybe not anymore. But if you just think about different vibrations, if you're tuned into a radio station, if you're tuned into Jazz FM, right, you're only hearing jazz music. You can't expect to hear pop or classical music because you're tuned into the jazz frequency. If you want to listen to classical music, you need to change the frequency of your radio to be able to listen to classical music. Now, if we think about our goals, and there's that Einstein quote of like, you can't solve a problem with the same energy or frequency. If we want to improve our personal lives, if we want to grow our businesses, we need to be, here the quote is, we cannot solve something on the same level of consciousness that it was created. So if you want to solve a problem, if you want to increase your business, you can't be thinking the same way that you always have been. If you're getting Jazz FM results, doing more Jazz FM and staying tuned into jazz is not going to get you classical music, right? So I think it's such a great way just to think about, you're the radio station, you're attracting, so you're on a certain frequency. If you want to get different results, you need to change that dial so you're tuned into the results that you want.
Yeah, and I just also want to do a little disclaimer for the ones that are watching right now. There's things that maybe your mind doesn't like to hear it this way, but the goal of this is that you're coming out of this watching us right now, recording on LinkedIn. You have tangible ways of applying this information, and usually we have to go to the basic to really have a big change in our results. Like, we think that we need to have more information, and that's the paradigm. Like, give me more information. How many of us sometimes we're not doing things because we feel that we need to gather more information, where other businesses were able to pivot like that just because they needed to do the basics. They needed to act and decide. And so today what we're doing is really giving the concepts that may seem basics, but they're very, very important. We're actually going at the source, at the root cause of what creates permanent results. And so when we're talking about frequencies, when we're talking about how we show up, this is huge. This is saying we're doing things in a certain way. Everyone can relate that by going to a coffee shop. If someone kind of ignores you and is having a bad day and like, yeah, have a good day, and someone else is greeting you with such a beautiful vibe and say, hey, Elise, how's it going? You want the same usual? And how about this? And have a great day. Which place are you going to go? Now, like the action, the doing was exactly the same, but the way of doing it, the way of being was very different. So I just thought that, before we continue, because these things, taken seriously and applied, our goal is that you apply what we're saying, like really reflect, okay, I'm listening just for listening, or I'm listening because I want to do it for myself. I want to apply in my own life. And so, and talking about the reality, that's true. Like, I mean, there's a concept. I mean, I remember it's a beautiful organization called Landmark, and I don't know if you know it. There's a lot of people that know it, but they were talking about a concept of asking the people, tell me what's the percentage of the things that you know, just that, and then people answered some sort of a percentage, and then they said, okay, so now of all the things that exist in the world, like all the information that's available, what are the things that you know that you don't know? You're aware that you don't know that. Like, you could be aware that I don't know how to change the timing belt of my car. I know that I don't know that, and I don't want to know it, but
I know that I don't know how to ask it.
And then the third question was, what do you think is you don't know that you don't know? And that was a huge percentage. It's 99. It's going back to the reality that we don't even see. And so can we agree that we're actually so many times going with a very tight vision, tunnel vision on things that we don't even know that we don't know, that could actually really help us? So in saying that, it's also saying that what are the filters that we have when we show up in a team meeting? When we show up for the people that we love? Are we listening with that filter, or we're actually open to the idea that maybe there's things that we don't know, that the reality is a lot larger than we think? And usually the filter is what we have seen, what we have heard. And so going back to the goal, there's different ways of setting a goal. And so if we're setting the goal based on the past, we're actually kind of just going in that tunnel vision, as opposed to maybe say, hey, hold on a second. No, I've got this vision and I've decided that I'm doing this. Are we on board? We're on board. So, hey, are we talking to the right customers? Are we optimizing the right things? Benjamin Hardy said it so well, like the floor, like what's our floor? What are our standards? And a goal needs to be declared in a way that you, at the end of the day, you don't even know how you're going to do it. It's kind of going for the impossible things, because by asking these questions, that's how you're going to find out actually that maybe we need to get rid of a division. Maybe we should focus on these type of clients because they're so easy to serve and they're so fun, and that's what resonates with us. And it asks to make very difficult decisions sometimes. And I know you have a story on that. The story that I heard today was this entrepreneur that had a 36 people team. And last year, before they started 2025, they said, you know what? Like, I lost my mojo. I'm not even enjoying this. I feel like I'm more of a police than anything. I'm not doing what I'm good at. I feel like I'm far away from my zone of genius. I'm away from my family. I'm about to burn out. I don't like this. And so now by setting their goals, said, well, do we need the 36 people? And it's not about the number of people, but it's really about like what's his zone of genius. This year they had a record year and they were 8. They just hired someone back, like they're 9. Because there was a lot of things that were not optimized. There was a lot of overlap, and he was actually not doing the things that he was supposed to do. His talents and gifts were not used, and that's why at the end of the day it felt like more of a burning out as opposed to really enjoying. And now this year they're setting new goals, and these goals are very big. And so it's not about setting a goal, and by the way, the purpose of a goal is to grow, is to have fun. It's not to achieve it, because if you just do that for achieving it, you're going to be miserable in the whole way. So the whole team is growing, everyone's growing by shooting for something that has such a big purpose and a vivid vision that we're excited to do.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I think that so many things in that story is great. Firstly, the awareness that he had to make that decision and to understand where he's at his best. I think that needs a lot of introspection to go, where am I at my best? What is like my purpose? What can I really contribute? And is that aligning currently, right? I don't necessarily want to be like the manager person. I want to deliver in this way or serve clients and people in this way. And then when you think about a goal, as you said, it's about growth, right? And it's about you really need to be inspired by it. You need to be excited about it. You need to be so motivated. And that's why you want to, see this, as you said, like a vivid vision and have this, like this beautiful picture of where you want to go. If anything were possible, what would it look like? We so easily restrict ourselves and just go, oh, well, I think we can kind of grow by 10% and we need to tweak here. And that's not exciting, right? That doesn't motivate anyone. So I think, having this inspirational goal. And then, as you said, it's the growth that's required. Like, what does it look like for me to get there? What does the business need from me as a leader? And as you said, we want to grow into that. So who do I need to become? Who is the leader who runs this organization that does this thing, that reaches this goal? And this kind of sense of becoming is so important. And so many people talk about it, right? And who do you need to become for this to become a reality? What does that person think? And how do they behave? And what decisions do they make? And on decisions, so often I think people, when they think about goals, they think about doing more. They think it's more strategies and more plans and more ideas. And I think it's often doing less. And it's about, what am I not doing? You were talking about the flaw, but is this not serving us? Or maybe it's less strategies, or you honing in on a specific client base. Like, I think it's focus. And so easily, I think we just kind of go more and extra and adding. But if you think about, it's often less. That really makes you think in a different way, doesn't it?
I love it. And going back to we'll use the word frequency, whatever people like, the energy, your energy, when you are so excited about your goal, your energy goes up. You're like a positive person. And the reason why I say that is because there's a study that I heard that apparently, let's talk about influence for instance. You're in sales. Are you being influenced by someone that's positive, someone that's negative? We agree that there's something about being positive, right? So there's already that. So if your goal is to influence so that you can convert it into sales, convert it into revenue, you're going to like this, because there is a study that they've done that when you see some people that were being influenced by someone more than others, they realized that it was not actually the energy of love or the energy of joy that really shifted and influenced the person. It was authenticity, being authentic. So the energy of being authentic, really caring about our clients, because that's what we said. What's our mission? Is that something you just spit and that's not even important for you? Or do you believe in what you're saying as a leader, that this is possible? Because if it's not, and if you just say the words, but it's not authentic, people get that. And if you are, then bam, this is where you convert. This is where you influence. This is where you can change lives. And people get that. Actually, the multiple factor of that, the force of authenticity is 40 times bigger than joy and love. It's been proven.
Wow.
They've seen it 40 times.
That's incredible.
And I think that when you look at sales, like in the 80s, when they say always be closing, I think it was easier at the time to not be so in tune with the energy and say, all right, we felt that we could twist our clients to agree to do something. And eventually we realized there was the era of, no, we're going to do something that's good for our clients, and whatever the policies were. Now people are not stupid. They feel it. They can feel if you're authentic or not. And they can feel if the leader is authentic into, yes, guys, we're going to do this. No, that doesn't work anymore. And so that's why it's actually so important to have an authentic mission and vision, so that people that you're going to attract will actually be attracted for the same reason. And if there are some people, team members, that don't believe in it, well, too bad, so sad. That doesn't work. It's not aligned. You need to align yourself with another business that will make you more happy. And we're just looking for true authenticity. Like, that's how important that is. I mean, I would rather convert 40 times more by being authentic, being myself, as opposed to pretend. And so this is how it's important. And the goal, one thing that we, there's two things that's important for a goal. One is, am I able to do it? And if you're really looking at the human potential, we are all able to do things way more than we think. You know, people that could be handicapped, and they showed us that no, you know, I decided to play golf and I only have one leg, or I'm driving a plane and I don't have legs. I don't have arms. I'm using my legs. This is crazy. So the point is that once we know, and if all the team members can say, yes, we're able. It's just a matter of who do we need to become, like you said, right? Who do we need to become? Yeah, we all agree we're able. Now, the most important question after that is, are we willing? Are we willing to pay the price? Are we willing to be disciplined? Are we willing to make the decision that might not be easy? We're going to decide to let go of this department or the type of customers, and we're only going to focus on that. That takes a lot of courage. That's why we're going back to what I said. This is the basic thing. But do you have courage as a leader to make the decisions? So you can gather a lot of information and about a lot of different things, but are you making the decision on the right thing? And do you have the courage to make that decision without having any data, any past history, perhaps, no sense information from your senses, what you heard, all of it, to make that decision? So yeah, we spend a lot of time on goals today because that's the start.
And what you said about willing and able, you know, it seems so easy to, as you say, it sounds so basic. Willing, sure, yeah, okay, I would like it. And then able, yeah, I think I can do it. Like, that's not good enough, right? I mean, I think it's that like absolute commitment that this is going to happen. I will do it. And the willing part, I think most people can go, yeah, I'm willing to do what it takes. But if you actually think about what it really takes to reach something that's out of your zone right now, out of your experience right now, that is big, right? That is discomfort, that's fear, that's a whole bunch of you having to grow into this person. You're going to do things you don't like. You're going to do things that are going to feel scary, uncomfortable, and you're going to do them anyway. You know, I love how Bob says discipline is giving yourself a command and doing it, right? And sticking to it, and like no excuse. So if you're going to run that marathon that we spoke about, I'm waking up early, I'm being healthy, I'm being intentional about what I'm eating, I'm going to bed early. Like I'm getting up. There's no excuse. I'm doing this thing. And so easily we can go, it's not convenient and I'm a bit tired, and you know, like the holidays, and like I think it's having to have that persistence. And that is such a big word for me, because that's something that I've been very intentionally working on. You know, it's going to get hard. You won't necessarily see the results when you want to see it. I think we're also in the zone of wanting quick results. You know, you hear about people and they do one post and it gets 1 million views, and you're like, yeah, sure, I want to do that. It doesn't work like that, you know. And are you willing to do it when it's inconvenient, you don't feel like it, you want to give up, but you're doing it anyway? And that for me has just been such a big lesson.
I love it that you talk about persistence. I'm actually, our group of clients together, all the men, we have decided to read Persistence for 30 days. So we're at day 25, I think, right now.
Oh, wow, good job.
How to develop, it's repetition, right? We're going to talk about repetition for the next subject. So how to develop persistence. It's interesting, right? They say a definite purpose backed by a burning desire for its fulfillment. We just talked about that. And then a definite plan expressed in continuous action. You gotta do it no matter what, right? So the January is coming, people will have resolution, and we know that by the second week, 92% are gonna drop it. Is it because you didn't have a definite purpose? Is it because you didn't have a burning desire? Is it because you lacked a plan? Is it because you didn't commit to do continuous action, even if you don't like it? Because, by the way, what's familiar is just your operating system. And this operating system, your habits, your belief needs to change. You need to become someone new. Knowing that means, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. That's good news, because that means that you're changing, as opposed to say, I don't feel like it. The I don't feel like it is run by your subconscious mind. And we're going to talk about it. And for the two other things is a mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences. And then 4 is a friendly alliance, and we'll talk about that too. So
Yeah.
for the other things that we wanted to talk about, which is really I think a good segue for it, is the power of habits, right? Like we just talked about it. So now that we've decided what we want, there's a purpose. We know that we are willing. It's not like we made a committed decision. What are the small little actions moving the needle that will get you to the results? I mean, we have been trained that don't try to change everything all at once. It's not going to work. Like you really just go 1 or 2 habits at a time. And I have a beautiful story that I heard today, actually, again in my group of men. One person said, we talked about gratitude also, and he said, I'm just so happy that, we decided to do this challenge of fasting because it had such a big impact on everything else in my life. He said, just by fasting, it was one habit of changing the way you're eating. He's like, now I'm eating better. I lost 18 pounds the first week. I decided to continue and go to the gym. My wife decided to do it with me. We are eating better. She decided to quit smoking. Because she did that, her friend decided to follow. Like, I mean, I can continue on and on and on. It's just like one thing that this person did that had a trickle effect on everything else. So now his energy is up. Like he's waking up earlier. He's doing things with his wife. She's hiking. She quit smoking. He's losing pounds. He's training more. Like, can you imagine the domino effect? That's what we talked about, the domino effect. Like one little thing. And it created a whole ripple effect in his life.
That's incredible. I'm sure his confidence must have been so high, right? Because he's like, look, I can do this. I'm feeling it. I'm seeing the results. It's making me feel so great. I mean, that's incredible. You probably could even notice the difference in him when he was telling the story.
And excited, you said? Yes, he was on the screen and he's like doing his flex muscles like, look at this. I'm going back to my 20s. He's 60. But it's so it has. So what are the habits that we can create? Pick 1 or 2. And Bob said it very well for the insurance industry. At the time in the 70s, like coming up, having a face-to-face meeting with someone by 9, and then also asking an order of 100K policy insurance, which apparently was very rare at the time. And if you do the math, it's probably $1 million. Just asking. And he said, I don't want you to sell. I just want you to ask. And that was a habit that they created. And all of a sudden that changed the whole company.
Yeah.
Just with
and I love how everything we're speaking about like has the same principles, right? I mean, the article you just read, it spoke about a definite plan. That's in your habits, right? If you create habits that support the plan, that's when the actions happen. And look, fundamentally, your results are coming from your actions, but you need to make these decisions. You need to get it into your subconscious mind that we'll talk about. You need to have the right actions, doing them in the right way for those actions to then get you the results you want. And it's just so powerful to think about, how we actually get to those actions. So just to recap on how the mind works, 95% of everything you do is controlled by your subconscious mind. If you think about the habits and the routines you currently have, you probably wake up and you take a shower and you have coffee and everything kind of happens in the same way. And there are definitely people that are like, if you mess with my routine and my kind of morning, kind of rhythm, then my whole day is out. And that just shows you, we are controlled by our subconscious mind. And the same thoughts are going through our minds every day. And things are happening on autopilot. And I think the challenge is we want to get you out of autopilot. We're currently trying to make changes in our life based on the 5% in our conscious mind. That is not going to work, right? Your 5% in your conscious mind, you can say that I want to start going to the gym. And until you commit to it, make the changes, those habits are changing, it's deeply embedded into your subconscious mind, that action and those habits are not going to change to give you that result. It'll be so interesting to hear like how your client is thinking differently of himself. What did he do to be able to get that way of thinking? Like I can just imagine the way he makes decisions now is so different. I often say, again, we were talking about becoming a different person. You may kind of go, I'm 60 and who cares if I'm exercising enough and does it really matter? You could be thinking like that. Or you could see yourself in a completely different way. I am a healthy person that takes I'm very intentional about how I eat, how I exercise. I honor my body. I love it. And that's how I'm living my life. I mean, that is such a different way of making decisions. And until you go, I am this person. I am the person who wakes up early, who makes great decisions about my nutrition, etc. That that you'll make decisions differently because that is the identity you've taken on. And I think it's so important that through the repetition, that identity is part of your paradigm. That self image is part of your paradigm. It's in your subconscious mind. So until it gets there and you are this person, then you're like, if I am the person who exercises and I love being healthy and I take my nutrition seriously, obviously I'm going to stop smoking. Obviously I'm going to get up and exercise. And isn't it amazing to see that once you've made that decision about that identity, those decisions become so easy because that is just who you are.
Yeah, and I'm laughing because the way you talked about it this morning again, it was such a beautiful, a beautiful session this morning with my guys and my man. I shouldn't say guy. Well, guys is okay. Anyway, so he said he's creating the habit of waking up early because one of his thing is that his clients, his kids, clients, his kids are a little bit older and they come home later and he wants to have a good connection with him. He's like, the problem is that they go to bed at 1 and I want to wake up early and I'm so tired. So anyway, we kind of discussed a little bit about what's the purpose, like what do you want to do and everything else, right? And so this morning he shared, he's like, my win is, I started to wake up early and I love it. And I love it because he's training himself saying that he loves it, right? Like he probably doesn't love it, but the point is just to change the habit of a way of speaking because he wants to love it. He really knows that this is going to have a big impact in his life, having this new habit for all the goals that he has. He's working in a big accounting firm and he wants to, have a big portfolio for trading and do things that are meaningful for his brother and his dad and having residual money that comes in. That takes time. So when is he going to have it? Well, he's going to have it by waking up earlier and there's a reason for it. So, and the next slide I think is going to resonate a lot based on what we said because, it's making a decision of changing the way we're thinking because right now we just showed you 95% of everything that you do is on autopilot. And by the way, the brain wants to conserve energy as much as possible. That's why imagine if you had to relearn every day how to drive. Relearn every day how to do a lot of different things. That would be insane. So it's like, oh, I got this autopilot. Don't need to worry. You can
You're
do
all
this,
good.
right?
Yeah.
So, but if you are wanting to create a new reality, that means you're going to shift the way you're thinking. You're going to shift your habits and your operating system, your belief system, all the series of habits that you have, which we call a paradigm. They control everything. They control your perception. They control your use of time, creativity, logic. Logic is a big one because that means that if it controls your logic and if you're creating new results or you want that in your life, that means short term it's going to be illogical. It will be because it's not what you're doing. You're doing something new, so it's illogical. It's not familiar, and knowing that it's not going to be familiar, not logical, that, then I feel like it's a lot easier to go through this journey of I don't feel good and this is different and this is strange. It's actually required because you're building a new paradigm. You're building new habits. And it's so good to always remember, why am I doing this? Oh, the North Star. Yes, that matters to me. This is so important. That's why I'm just going to keep doing it. And obviously, we'll talk about it later. But if you can be in that environment, the friendly and alliances, being with other people that actually resonates the same way, that are positive like you, that they can encourage you and they say, yes, you can do it. The reason actually my client was so grateful is that we were doing this fast all together. We were a bunch of people doing it all together. So it feels like I'm not the only one suffering, not eating a lot during the 5 days. And now he actually bought a kit even before we're doing the next one because he loves it so much. It's just to show how the power of habits are so important, and knowing that we've been driven by paradigms that control 95% of everything that we do. So if we want to have new results in our business, if we want to do change something in our own life, we gotta change our thinking. It will be unfamiliar and it's normal.
And I just want to quickly go back to him saying that he loves waking up early, because I think often we kind of go, yeah, I must be positive, but in my head, I'm kind of going, this sucks and I don't like it and I'm tired. And I remember someone once said to me, your subconscious mind is always listening. Everything we say, we're almost like ingraining that belief system in our subconscious mind. And so if you're on the outside going, oh, yeah, it's great, whatever, but the rest of the day, and we have like 70,000 thoughts a day, if all of those in your mind are negative, nothing's going to change, right? So we need to decide to, have like, I almost like see like a little soldier guy or someone like at my mind going, I'm not going to let this through. You need to control that thinking. And our thinking starts off in our conscious mind. You can decide the thoughts you think. If you're thinking, oh, I'm tired, I don't feel like waking up early, you can go, no, I'm doing this and it's going to be great, and I know why I'm doing it. So I think, I think we often think that things that no one else can hear doesn't matter. And I've realized that it actually matters more than anything else, right? That self-talk, the thoughts that go through your mind, all of those thoughts every single day, that is actually the biggest part of the work, is controlling that and making that serve you and where you want to go, so it gets you towards where you want to be.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up, because it feels like it's a lie, right? It feels like it's a lie. It's not familiar. It feels like it's illogical. And so when John was saying, I love it, because he knows the power of our word, this is what is required to change it. Because even if we're not saying it out loud, there's an inner narrative, and if the inner narrative is like, it sucks, you're not good, you're not going to be able to do it, that's what actually controls everything. We just said it, 95%. And so it's interesting that even myself, like I'm doing some push-ups and I decided, okay, you know what, not 33, I'm going to do 55. And there's a great on YouTube, there's this guy that is a janitor. I don't know if people have seen it, but he acts as a janitor, and he's very, very strong, and he's going into gyms and he's able to lift things like so easily, and people are amazed, like, what? And his mop is like 55 pounds or something. So when I'm doing my push-ups, I'm like, I'm doing it, it's so easy, because he's like, oh, it's so easy, so easy. And I'm programming myself, and every time it feels so much easier. And this morning when I did it, I heard my mind saying, you're tired, it's going to be difficult. And then all of a sudden it's so much, like it's harder, it's way harder. And then I flip it, I'm like, I thought about this image. We think in terms of image. That's another thing about the mind, how that works, right? I thought about him lifting this mop, and it's so easy. And then I started to accelerate, and it was better. So it's powerful. Our mind is so powerful. It feels like a lie, but it's so powerful.
And I think we often think, oh, it's like internal, whatever. But as we were saying earlier, don't believe only the things that you can see. Also, don't believe everything your mind is telling you, right? Because it wants the familiar, as you said. It's lazy. It wants to just go to normal habits. So it's our job to change that until the positive things become the automatic, right? So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the mental faculties.
Yeah, the mental faculties, and we talked about it already. There's different names for it. There's 6 of them, right? But I think that if there's perception, will, reason, imagination, intuition. What am I missing? Memory. So I think I've said 6. One that is very important for all of us for 2026, especially right now, is like, what kind of when we talked about the vision, I'm using my imagination. This is a faculty that we are the only one. And I think that there's a quote by Albert Einstein. I don't remember exactly what that is, but he talks about how imagination is one of the most important faculties. So important. And when you combined it with, when you mentioned focus, right? We call it will. So will is the ability to kind of just own in on one thing, excluding everything else. Because if we're looking at how the mind works, and if you're looking at this stick person, we have all the senses here, and we are usually being influenced by all of that. We're making decisions based on what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. It's not the right, like we already talked about it. So we have to exclude that and live from the inside, really. And it takes discipline. It takes discipline to exclude all negativity and the evidence on the outside that this is not working. There's a great quote. I believe it was from, actually, it's not Bob, but he took it from somebody else. But he said, the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. So that where it takes discipline,
Right.
persistence, and the will to say, I'm not seeing the results yet, but hey, you know what? I'm on the exponential curve right now. It seems like nothing is moving, but I believe that with the compound effect of time, it's just going to grow. And sometimes we're lucky. There's a logarithmic law. There's a huge jump where like we do something that's meaningful and boom, like we have this growth. And then there's another plateau. And that's where people starts to fall away. They're like, nah, it doesn't work. But you could be now on the exponential law where it's going to start to go up. I tell my clients always about that, because when you start to create new habits and it feels like nothing is working, that's where persistence is very important. And remembering that, hey, it's just the law of, like, you're on an exponential curve right now. There's a hockey stick and it's coming up, but just don't stop. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. You're planting a seed. Keep doing what you're doing and it's going to pay off. So far I've talked and you can talk about other faculties. I think these ones, and even will, when you look at will, how many times have we talked about it in the previous episode, being distracted by so many different things, including our phone, our computer, text, whatever. Even I would say the thing that we consume, are we consuming the right thing? Are we scattered into trying to learn so many different things at the same time, not even going deep into one skill that would really move the needle for the year? So that just will and imagination, you can go so far knowing that you can use that.
Yeah. And I almost see these as like mental muscles, right? If you don't use them, they don't get stronger. So even people that say, oh, I can never remember names. If you're telling yourself that, then you're actually not really even listening when someone introduces themselves, because you've decided that you can't remember it anyway, right? So, memory, intuition, if you don't make an effort to kind of sense things, to use your intuition when you walk into a space or engage with people, that's not going to get better. So we need to see these as mental muscles that we're going to practice. Your imagination, some people say, yeah, I don't have goals, or when we tell people, if anything were possible, what would you want if you had nothing holding you back? And people are like, yeah, I don't know. You do know. You just haven't exercised your imagination. Like, be free. And I think it's that moment of go back to being childlike, right? When you were a kid, you could think of all kinds of amazing things if someone asked you what you wanted to do, if you could have anything in the world. Like, we need to set ourselves free for those, the imagination and all these kind of mental faculties and muscles to get stronger. Let's use them and let's tap into them, because there is so much more beyond what we see and do currently. So we must use those to the best of our abilities.
Absolutely, and I like the fact that you talk about memory. Here's one thing, and Dale Carnegie, not Napoleon Hill or Andrew Carnegie, but Dale Carnegie with the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's one thing that if you guys remember that as a memory trick, remembering the names of people, how powerful that is. Remembering maybe something specific that your teammate, your employees have done, and you appreciate them and you praise them. Whatever we praise, whatever we appreciates. Remembering that, how like big of an impact that can create in a team. Just that they feel like you care about them, that you remember what you've done specifically, and you're actually appreciating them. That's using your memory, remembering. I'm going to jot that down, and I'm going to next meeting we're going to talk about this. Thank you so much for what you've done. It really helped us, and we're so grateful for it. So that's using your memory, and the names of your clients. Would it be nice, like, or your suppliers or everyone else going to or personal life? You go to a restaurant. I've done it so many times. I had so many freebies just because I just mentioned their name. And I'm not doing it because I love talking to people. I'm like, who am I talking to? Oh, Josh or Linda. Hey, how are you, Linda? They feel appreciated. So we can use that. And for business, really. And there's another faculty I was thinking of. Well, perception. This one. Oh, my God. This is so powerful. Like, how are we thinking about the problems that we have and the challenges? Are they a method for learning the places where we can improve and lessons that we can transcend? Can we embrace that as not the end of the world and just saying, hey, we can make mistakes, that's fine. So how can we perceive that as a good thing? How can we perceive the problem? And I love this physical activity that Bob said, and I've done it once. It was writing down what's the challenge that you have in your life or personal, and you put it on a piece of paper, and then you try to figure out the solutions using your imagination or your intuitions, and now you're jotting that down, and then you change from your chair, you go to a different place.
Yeah, you put it like in the middle of the table.
To look at a different angle. How can I see this in a different way? And it's really using perception, and that's so important. Like, it's also, if you do ideation sessions with people, maybe there's like the way you look at the problem is very different compared to another person. So it's using your perception to change and transcend the challenge that you have, or you finding a new solution. That's so powerful.
That reminds me of a quote that says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Isn't that amazing, right? And I think that being able to, I guess, step away, because I think so easily we get almost emotionally involved and in the detail of a problem, being able to kind of step back, as you said, write it down on a piece of paper, put it down in the middle of the table, and take a different seat. And you can even imagine, what if I wonder what Francis would think about this thing. I'm gonna see, and what I think he would say about this problem, and what's other people that I really respect and appreciate, what do I think they would say about it? Because I bet they have a different point of view. Like, isn't that a powerful way for us to be able to challenge ourselves to think differently, think more objectively, come from a different angle? That's how you creatively solve problems. And as you said, like, there's always good in it, right? So how am I harvesting the good? How am I learning from this? But every problem has a solution. I mean, that's the law of opposites, right? A problem has a solution. There is one. You just need to find it. And often, if we just try and think about things differently, see a different angle, just imagine it in a different way, that you'll find that solution.
Yeah, and there's just this question that people can ask themselves, whatever the challenge they have, either at work or in personal. The question is very simple: is like, how is this actually an opportunity? How is this challenge something good for me? What is my gratitude about this challenge? Just to ask, like, what is this problem giving me as an opportunity? That's a reframe. That's a new way of perceiving things, and it could be that, actually, I'm realizing that this is not the type of clients I want to serve anymore. It's a big problem, and thank you. What an opportunity, because I'm realizing that's not what I'm good at. I don't want to serve these people. Or, oh, what an opportunity, because yes, there's a big problem, but now we can serve a new market. It's showing that we should expand in something new, whatever it is. It's taking it, looking at it a different way. And even when you do masterminding session, which we'll talk about later, but ideation sessions, talking about the fact that we don't want to hear about the reasons why we cannot do something. We all want to jot down all the reasons why we can. That's actually using our perception to say, okay, let's put the perception aside. Let's put the angle aside that it's not possible. Let's just view it from the angle that all is possible, and let's find solution from that.
I love those questions that you had, because it almost reminds me of auto-suggestion, right? So you're choosing the frame through which you want to look at it. So you're not going, I have this problem, how am I going to solve it? You say, how is my business growing through this problem? Or, what are the lessons? Or how are we really going to expand the way we do things differently? Like, the way in which you ask the question, you're prompting your mind to look for that positivity. You're looking for, how am I actually going to grow my business? I think this may be a significant issue for us, but how do you think, like, how is your business going to exponentially grow, through going through this thing? Like, it makes your mind go and look for those positive things and the lessons. And that's really powerful. So asking the right questions is a really great It's a
Yeah,
great
and
point.
I'm sure for personal matters of a lot of people this year, I feels like this is a year of a lot of endings, a lot of challenges. The beauty, the reframe on that is, hey, that's great. There's new beginnings. Maybe we're letting go things that we should let go of that are not serving us in our life, in our business, or whatever. This is a great opportunity to finally do something that matters. Being authentic, like having that 40 times more influence for ourselves. And so
Amazing.
the next thing we wanted to talk about is self-image, and we mentioned it so many times. Self-image is the key to human personality and behavior. Maxwell Malt, great book, the Psycho-Cybernetics. The mind is a cybernetic mechanism. Like, it's a target, there's a goal, and it will drive to find it. And made a great experience that we mentioned before. That was a plastic surgeon, did operate on different people, did surgeries, to realize that some of the people, as soon as their surgery was done, they felt great. They're like, oh, this is finally my scar. Scar is gone. And for other people that had the exact same type of issue, nothing really changed. They were still depressed. They didn't feel good about themselves, and it actually he started to ask himself, like, hold on a second. So there's an external image, but I think the one that actually has this biggest impact on their life, on their happiness level, on their fulfillment, on whatever, was the internal image they had, the self-image. And so this is so important, especially for people in sales, anyone that wants to influence. Like, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as someone's capable? Or do you feel worthy of going for the big goal and achieving this? Like, how do you see yourself? Because this is where actually this needs to change. A new identity needs to be formed in order to have new results. That's the paradigm. So you got to really shift now into a new self-image. You got to see yourself in a different way. Until you do that, you will never outperform your paradigm. You will never outperform your self-image. And this is probably one of the most important internal script that people need to have. Changing their self-image, changing their identity. And I have an accountability partner. He's amazing. He was also in the film industry, and he said this, and that's actually a great exercise. You can look at whatever happened in the past as season number 1. And then now 2026 is coming. Season 2 starts, and everything changed because now I am X. I am the successful leader. I am the successful business man, woman. I am a change maker. Now it changed. Everything changed because you're shifting the way you see yourself. You're shifting your self-image.
Yeah, I love that you said that you can't outperform your self-image. And I think so often people feel like their self-image is almost like cast in stone based on what happened in the past. So if you always think that season 1 is what you're like, have to be like the kitten, right? If you feel like there's like that is what I am, that is who I am, and that I can't be any more, that is not true. We can change our self-image. And I think you often hear in like interviews, people are like, oh, tell me about yourself or whatever, or who are you? And so often people think they are their job title. They are their, like, what they do. And it's so sad. I think so easily society is like, oh, you are I don't know, account executive, or you are an entrepreneur. That's not who you are. I mean, that might be what you do, but don't let that hold you back. And I think, some people are like, oh, I'm only this assistant or whatever. No, that's not it. And firstly, you're so much more than that. And don't let anything define you. You can define who you are. And I don't think many people are taught that, right? You get to write your self-image. And we even speak to our clients about writing a self-image script. I mean, if you think about the movie analogy, season 1 has come and gone, and that's fine, right? Season 2, the characters often change significantly, right? What is that going to look like for you? What is Francis doing? What is Elise doing? How are they behaving? What are they doing? What's the adventure they're going on? How do they feel about themselves? How confident are they? You get to write this thing. Isn't it cool that you get to write like the script of your own movie, your life, your movie? Like, it's not what you think it was. Just because you feel like season 1 was by default based on how you grew up or what your parents said about you or the teacher said or whatever, don't let that hold you back. Like, you get to take control and write that script. And we work with people to actually write a self-image script. This is who I am. This is how I behave. This is how I show up. This is what I do. This is my purpose. Like, that is so empowering, right? That like you have complete control over it. And then we help people really implement that and get that into their subconscious mind, that this is just who you are. This is not something I need to read. This is something that I've rehearsed and repeated to myself over and over again. And now it's just part of who I am.
Yeah, it's so powerful because actually the same accountability partner that I have, his name is Ryan, at a deep, at a moment where he was at the lowest in his life, somebody called and that changed his whole trajectory. He's been working in music and doing a lot of projects. He was very, very good at logistics, actually. You're talking about, the self-image and how people perceive themselves. And yet the call that he received was from someone that was working in a bank and said, I'm calling you and it's about being a project manager for IT, which he's never really done, but he did. But anyway, and she told him, you're going to look good today. You're putting on your great suit. We're going to see this client and you act like you know what you're doing. Act like you know what you're doing. So she basically said, you're going to have a new self-image. You're the self-image of a consultant.
You're the guy.
Doing this. And he showed up and he's, again, to show how being at a root cause of everything that has moved the needle. He's someone that's very... how can I say? He has a great personality. He's curious. He wants to help people. So he started to ask questions, just asking questions to the client. What do you want to do? What are your issues? What are the challenges and everything? He's taking all these notes and then he's like, yeah, okay. And then apparently as soon as this call was done, it took way more time because he was very interested. He didn't even know what he was doing, but he's gathering information and he's also helping. And then you realize, I think there's ways to do that because now his mind is kicking in and he knows how to do things logistically and he's asking the right question. The client texted the person that hired him and said, I love him. I want him as my consultant. And he's never even done that. And in his 1 year, he actually rose to 4 different types of echelon, moving from one to the second to the third. Like he had 4 promotions in 1 year. He had to constantly raise his new self-image. Okay, I'm a consultant. I'm a consultant. Okay, I'm in, and he's doing it. So imagine like the flex. Like we're talking about something now that you can, if you're getting any increase next year because of the self-image, we're not going to ask any cut. But please just say like and remember, come back and say that was the episode that really helped me. Because self-image is so important. And there's another thing I wanted to say about this. We can go on and on and on. It's gonna come back, but this is key. Like really affirming this new identity, because identity shifts everything, shifts the results. Because the way we've been trained is conditioned, and we got to change this condition to something new. And the great question you asked in the beginning was, who do I need to become? Who do I need to become to be the greatest leader? If I'm not a leader right now and I want to become a leader, who do I need to become? What are the skills, the basic skills that I need to have in order to and we're going to talk about this. This is perfect for the new segment, talking about the most valuable person, which is you. Before you become a leader, you need to lead yourself. You need to have inner leadership. And those are the basic skills that you need to have. And that's how you actually create a better environment. That's why we have this pond that is illuminated. Like you're the one that creates. And no matter what type of circumstances that are in front of you, you're the one that needs to change first. You're not going to blame anyone. You're not going to say, well, the economy is like this or whatever seems to be dark in front of you. You're the one that has this power of changing things. You have the authority, the agency of changing things in your life and in the life of others.
Yeah, I mean, just taking responsibility for your life and the impact you have, right? As you say, there's no blaming. You control you control your thoughts. And, as you were talking about the self-image, we behave in alignment with our self-image. So when you change the self-image, that behavior changes, and as we said, it just becomes part of who you are. I was hearing someone speak the other day about, how the way we feel about someone is often what we get back from them, that kind of cause and effect. If there's someone that you see and you're already annoyed by the time, like if you've just seen them, they're probably not going to respond to you all that well, right? And it's amazing how, that I don't even know if it's auto suggestion, but it's, if we just come at things at a certain angle, that's often what then creates. If you go, oh, I can never be on time and I'm always late and I'm this, then you will be, or this person is always horrible to me, or this teacher is always mean to me. You're almost like you're attracting that to you by saying that, right? And I think we need to take responsibility that it's on us to be the start of the ripple of good, right? If I'm positive, if I come with a great attitude, if I'm enthusiastic, then people will respond to me in a similar manner. It's like you were talking about getting freebies when you're nice to people at the coffee shop. They want to deal with you. They're excited to see you. Of course, they reciprocate in a positive manner. I mean, it doesn't often happen that you're like, yay, and the person's like, go away, unless they've had a really bad day. Most people are like, how awesome. This guy's in a great mood. He's making me feel good, right? And for us to take responsibility going, like, you can be the person who initiates the good. I mean, you were talking about dominoes earlier. You can be the person that starts that domino effect. And that's a great, that just shows you how powerful our attitude and how we behave and think and act is. And that is attitude, right? When all of that is in alignment, the way you think and feel and behave, that is a good attitude. And when that's in alignment, then things start to happen in the right way.
Absolutely. I love it. I couldn't say it better. And there's a great quote actually that I think for leaders, if they can just remember that one, the goal of the most leaders is to get the people to think highly of them as a leader. But the goal of an exceptional leader is to get the people to think highly of themselves. I read an email yesterday, and to me that's still so surprising, from Sharon Srivatsa, a great leader, and I was talking about different CEOs, and the story that the CEO would always say, I did this, I did that, I, instead of acting as a team player. And really, and you look at this, and that's very basic. Very basic. So just to be able to get the people to think highly of themselves, giving them encouragement when they need it, giving them the support. It's not about you. It's really about the whole team together getting to the goal. That's a different culture. That's a different organization. And the results are definitely very different. So we wanted to give you this quote because I think that's it's a basis. If you are someone that authentically really cares about other people and want them to think highly of themselves, because we all have our paradigms. It's actually when people are not thinking highly of themselves, it's because their self-image is low. And what if you can actually just brighten the day of someone and say, no, I know you can. Like, I've seen you. Just trust yourself. Don't worry about making mistakes. We're gonna learn from this. Like, that's a different way of talking about a culture, right? You can do this. Oh, you think so? Yes, you can do that. Public. You can speak in front of everyone. Wink, wink. I remember that you had a story about that. Like, you didn't really want to do public speaking, and look at you. You're such a powerful public speaker, but somebody believed in you and said, no, like, you do this. I think that's what happened.
Yeah. I was trying to get out of it so frequently. It was like, Elise, you're doing this thing. It's so funny but at least as much as I resisted initially, getting out of your comfort zone, doing the things, and then it becomes normal. It becomes something that you get more comfortable with. And I think this time of the year is such a great time to reflect on that. Reflect on where have you grown, and what things what did you do that was uncomfortable, but that has become comfortable, and things that you've accomplished. Take time to reflect and just understand what you've done. What were your wins for the year? We so easily think about things we shouldn't prove. What were the wins? How are we, what are the lessons learned? How can you take these lessons and really apply them into the new year?
Yeah, and we're here to support you guys, and that's why it's about leveraging the information that you have to apply, like Elise said. And you can do that in your own organization. I strongly suggest that you have a mastermind, if not an accountability partner that speaks the same language, especially for all the concepts that we talk. If you can find someone that truly agrees with everything that we said in this episode alone, wow, your 2026 is going to be phenomenal and exceptional, because leveraging the power of other minds, people that are positive, people that have this same type of great attitude, and they perceive things differently, they see it in a positive outlook, that changes so much. Every time we do a masterminding sessions with the men that are in my group, they love it, because now they have different ideas that they're acting on afterwards, and they're so grateful that somebody cared enough for them to come up with some solutions, different fresh perspective, fresh ideas. And so that's something that we really wanted to stress, because that's how you become exponential. Instead of doing the linear way, like, you can find an idea by asking the right questions that will totally change your organization in 2026.
Yeah, I remember someone said to me that, like, if you could have done or reached your goal by yourself, you already would have done it, right? And so that's the power of mentorship. That's the power of a mastermind. You want people that can stretch your thinking, challenge your thinking, support you, give you new perspectives, and basically just accelerate your growth. You could do, and you can try and read all the books we speak about and do it all yourself. Or you can say, I want to accelerate. I want to learn from people that have done it. I want to learn from other people who are in a similar situation, people that I know, that I trust, that sincerely want me to succeed. We always talk about become the average of the 5 people we spend most of our time with. You often hear that. But are you being intentional about who those people are? Is it just kind of your family members and, like, people that are around you by default? Or are you seeking out people that are helping you grow, helping you think differently, challenging your thinking? We always say that everything starts with your thoughts. You become what you think about. So be very specific about what you let into your mind, your own thinking, but also people around you. What are you listening to? What are you reading? Who are you speaking to? What topics are you talking about? If people are just gossiping about the neighbor next door, you don't need that in your life, right? Like, make sure that you're allowing things in that are supporting you. And that's the beauty of a mastermind.
Well said. And we're wrapping up. And thank you guys for being with us for all that. I mean, we could have spent at least 50 minutes on each of those. So we hope that, we went deep enough for you to really take action. And so if we summarize everything, some of the key takeaways right now, we feel the 3 Ds of success are these ones. And I'll start with the first one, and then Elise, I'm sure you will follow. So desire, we talked about desire. Where do you really want to go next year? Like, what's your big burning desire? What's the ambition that you have? What's the purpose? Why is that important? If you have no definite purpose or no burning desire, there's not going to be any persistence for anything that you set as a goal for next year. It's not going to happen. That's the foundation.
Yeah. And once you have that burning desire, you need to make a decision that it's going to happen. Like, nothing starts taking effect until you decide that that's going to happen. So make a decision, commit to yourself, and start putting those action plans in place. Like, just having an idea doesn't work. It's about the implementation. And when you're committing to yourself that you're going to do this thing, that's when your mind almost goes into a different gear, going, let's talk about how I'm going to do this, or let's talk about what I need to do and how I need to think and what needs to happen around me for this to take action. So making that committed decision to yourself is a starting point of making that desire a reality.
Yeah, and they say billionaires have something in common. They all make a decision pretty fast. So we're not going to establish all the strategies for all the directions we can take. We're going to talk about the strategies after we have made the decision. So where do we really want to go? Like, okay, let's be committed. That's the point. Okay, now that we know that we're doing this, what's the strategy? And it takes discipline. And discipline for me, I think, is a new word that I'm using with more love than before. I don't like effort as much. I think discipline, like it said, it's giving yourself a command and sticking with it. It's really what's required. Like that's the habits that you have, your discipline, and you know why, because your vision was so exciting. You had a big desire. You made that decision, and you stick with it. You really stick with it, and that by just sticking and having persistence and discipline, you're going to be better than I'd say 92% of all the people, because they usually drop their intention or resolution 2 weeks after they've made it. So we hope that with everything that we share with you today, you're going to be very successful. Actually, this is our intention. You will be successful when you apply everything that we've mentioned today. Pick one or two things. What are the one or two things based on everything that we mentioned that you can commit to do for yourself? Are you going to choose a bigger goal? Are you going to change your habits? Are you going to change the way you think about yourself? And so on. So thank you, Elise, for a phenomenal time we've had together today.
Thank you,
Anything
Francis.
You want to add?
Yeah, I was
all
just
the
thinking,
insights you have.
we just have a few days left of this year. Like, take time to reflect, take time to think about what you did really well, what the lessons were, what you can take going forward. And again, let's go back to the self-image. Who do you need to be and who do you want to become? Like, take this time to really be intentional about designing that going forward. We so easily live by default. And then, as we said, the desire, the decision, the discipline, like make that commitment to yourself right now. Before we start January 1st, make a decision where you want to go, that you're going to do this thing, and then you're going to commit to yourself to make it happen, and then surround yourself with the right people. So this is such a great time of year to have this conversation, and really excited to share all of this with you. Francis and I are here. Please reach out if we can help. If you have any questions about what we're talking about, Francis has this incredible community of men and leaders that he works with. They sound like they have so much fun. and
Yeah.
and they're growing and challenging one another and supporting each other every day. And I know Francis has got incredible plans for next year. So stay tuned to hear all of those things. But we're here to support you. So reach out anytime.
And I want to say thank you, Elise. You're a phenomenal leader as well. I mean, you share. There's a story that we'll keep for another moment, but I know that you're shifting the way people think in such a powerful way that it creates new strategies for their business. And you have this skill of asking the right questions. So if you want to be challenged in the way you're thinking, which is required in order to grow, please reach out to Elise. She's a phenomenal leader. So it's been a real pleasure to be with you and to share these insights to the people. We want to make a difference. We want to make a difference in people's life. I know you want to make that difference too. So thank you for your patience. Knowing that it's already an hour, almost 20 minutes, you can, use that and go back to it. Actually, that would be a great thing to go back to it in chunks of 10, 15 minutes, really slow down. Like, first point, what is it that I can do about this? Oh, not so much about this one. I'm good with this. Okay, next, what am I going to do with this one on 2026? And we promise you're going to have an amazing year, very successful. Health through everyone. Be authentic. Have fun with what you do. I think it's the most important thing for me, at least, my word. Being authentic to what I love. And thank you, Elise. Thank you.
Thank you. And Happy New Year. We'll see you soon.
Yes. Happy New Year.